Good morning, ladies and gentlemen out in the world. It's 11:30 in the morning. I have some coffee. I'm feeling all right. Wanted to give you all a quick update. Not doing a full tutorial today. We're just going to draw a little bit into a piece I already started. I have a commission from a peer that I used to work with on some other projects. And the request is to do a landscape of a city that he wanted to see visualized from the top down point of view. What I have to work from is a theme and a map. And I think this was a really fun project. So someone, my client Sean, asked to draw up a city based on this map here. So when I took this image and then copied it into Photoshop and then transformed it to get perspective and then began developing the city around based on this map here. So this has been really fun. So the challenge is to take this map, make it into a comprehensible city of a certain size. This would be an ancient city. And also make it an interesting composition that would look good on the front of a box cover or a poster or an illustration on a Facebook wall, something really good. So this is just a first pass kind of direct image. I wanted to have something vignetting and bracketing the scene, so we added a couple children that are looking at the city from top of a hill. Maybe they went to go play, burn some of the energy off from just being a kid. And I like to bracket and vignette the outside of my scenes with darker colors. But I'm feeling like this is just kind of plain and generic right now. So looking at this with fresh eyes this morning, what am I thinking about changing this to make it more interesting for myself? Is this interesting enough? Well, I don't think so. I think we can do a little bit better. We have a very boring area in the upper right here. So one thing I'm thinking about doing is let's create a new layer so we can do a really quick before and after. And I'm going to darken off and build up another hill, like a bigger, broader hill shape in the upper right, so that we have a little bit more mass, a little bit more weight and drama. So maybe there's just a little bit of fog coming behind this hill. On the backside, I saw this as I was driving around San Francisco, or outside the hills, outside of San Francisco, is they look green directly at them. You're looking right at the hill, but then as it rolls away from you, you're seeing a little bit more yellow. And that's giving us the contour shape. It's like a velvet. If you look at a velvet cloth, it looks very dark directly, and then on the edges it starts to expose lighter hints and tones. So we're going to try to do a little bit of that with the hills. We're trying to develop the look of the hills and valleys in the background here. A little bit more blue, I think, in the valley crest kind of area. So immediately this is more interesting. We have a little bit of something darker up in the corner that's going to vignette our scene a little bit more, and then we can make it a little bit a little bit more messy, as if there's some vegetation. Usually in the runs and the washes going up a hill is where water is channeled, so we would have a little darker bushes and thicker leaved elements that would be down in those crevices and in those shadow areas. We have to remember our scale. How big is a tree going to be? In the foreground, we have a tree right on the same hill as our children that have just recently been playing, that are admiring our city. So there's very clear foreground. I'm just going to make it a little bit darker and draw over it to establish what that looks like. Feel dark, feel saturated. Maybe a little too saturated. How do we knock down the green a little bit? Maybe put a little bit of red, a little bit of brown. So just go a little redder, a little darker on the corner there. Maybe that'll give us a little bit more balance, a little bit more balance in our scene here. And just an occasional red little flower. Kind of small red shape, just to balance some of the green, contrast it. And let's keep the rest of this front hill dark so that we have the vignette. So sticking with dark saturated green, maybe a little less saturated, so we can add saturation later for the highlights. Maybe there's a couple of blades of grass that are going to be direct and clear, and we give them a little bit more brightness, a little bit of color, a little more hue, something like that. This is vignetting. The choice of the little blonde girl's dress being green blends in with the green background. Let's mix it up and give her something else. Let's give her a redder outfit, and we can go change this to color mode. In this case, you should copy it up. Go to color. There's color there. Let's see if we just glaze this color on, changes the undertone. Yeah, there we go. That's a little better. We don't want it to be skin tone. We don't want her to feel like she's not wearing any clothes. But we do want a little bit more red. Back to normal mode. Dark. Less desaturated in the shadow. Maybe put some of that blue. Kind of mixes with the red. What do we get? Some kind of purple. I think some kind of purple shape would be fun. Yeah, that's pretty good. We'll give her some purple in the shadows. And then a darker reddish, kind of burnt pink. Red and blue. A typical pink, we're working on tropes here. Typical gender color assigned, pinks and blues. The stereotypical colors for boys and girls. We're going to lean on that right now. We can change it later, but this is just a decision we're going to make quickly so that we can get on with making the composition in general more interesting. So high contrast there, up close on the close figure. Do we want to draw the eye to it? Not as much as probably as the city, so we'll have just a little bit, but not too much. Not too much there. Alright, pretty good, pretty good. So this is just the foreground elements. But overall composition, what do we have going on? Let's get a little more contrast in this tree. Maybe make it a little bit more silhouetted. A little more silhouetted up in the top. Boom. So I'm going to hang out with this dark color. Think about negative shapes, meaning the gaps between the objects have their own shape to them. And I think they're important. Very important. So you can work in silhouette and shape. So this will be foreground most color will be the darkest here. And then just going to glaze on some darks for what's behind. Down below, we can use crops to contour for sure. There's going to be hills. We can draw those crops. It's going to be a darker kind of crop being planted on this side. And this allows us to draw little paths and little trail lines that go on through these woods or fields or wherever, what kind of environment you have. Where have people walked? Those little paths can define the contour of whatever object you happen to have. So just drawing a little road, maybe it's like winding around this hill, there's a trail. There's a trail that kind of comes up and like one goes up and one goes out. Here's your little roads, probably going all over this little valley if things are going to exist. So you have this bright green color in the background. It's going to be distracting our eye just a little bit. So we're just going to paint some fog over that and knock the contrast down in the background. In the foreground, we'll have these leaves that will be sharper on this tree here. It's going for some kind of Mediterranean feeling tree. Eucalyptus, is that what it is? I don't think that's right. Really big in California. A nice smell to them. Olive, kind of broken, flaky bark. Leave it a little darker. It's catching a little bit of sunset light, I think. So that feels better. Starting to frame the scene in a little bit more. Vignette. A little dark cloud, maybe dark cloud, light cloud. See that fog happening. Maybe we have a forest in the background, way off in the distance. Maybe so. We'll just kind of put in just a little bit of a forested hill, just a little bit of a silhouette. Gradient down just to be a little bit darker, but still lighter than the foreground elements. Alright, so just silhouetting what might be the highlight side of a forest hill in the background. It's good to get reference to this kind of stuff. Go for a hike. One of the fun hikes I've done in my life was in Napa Valley on a foggy morning, and found some trails up into the hills overlooking the wineries. Visiting a friend of mine out in that part of the world was fun. Had a cold at the time. I couldn't really taste the wine very well. It's an ironic element of the trip. It's fun. There's a little pass that goes out this way. Maybe there's some houses kind of off in the distance. Smell there. Maybe something. That's fun. So there's some kind of foggy shape, some kind of hilly, foggy shape. Really playing a lot with perspective here, where the horizon line is going to be very, very high, and I'm artificially kind of bending the world away. So I want to have a little bit of like suggestion of a sky happening, maybe in the distance, even though the protagonists here are looking straight down on top of the city. So I've drawn out a lot of buildings, made up some things along the way. How do we make sense of all this chaos? It's very challenging. It's very challenging when you commit to a lot of detail. How do you simplify it out? Well, we can take each building that we've drawn, maybe a loose sketch of, and think about front, top, side, front, top, side. If we can then shade all of that, then we can turn some of this mess of lines into shapes that we actually can recognize. So we'll start with the outside with these turreted type defensible positions. So let's just start with a base side color, which will be this kind of warmer, purpley looking red. And then we have a sunlit side, which is going to be warmer and a little bit darker. And then we'll have a top that's probably going to be a little cooler. Let's just put a little light blue on top of this here and see what that feels like. Just going to glaze over some of that cool blue. It ends up being a little bit of a green. And let's see if does that communicate to us that this is the top and this is the side. Does that make sense? Let's just paint a little area like that and see if it works. We're going to resample the colors we just made. Top, side, and then we'll have like a bounce lit color maybe. Like on the warm side where there's casted shadows, maybe it's bounce warm. That feels pretty good. Just going to take our little time here and try to be patient with it this morning. Waiting for the coffee to kick in. Today it's good. Today it's got like 16 ounces of some Black Rifle Coffee Company, mix of their vintage blend with the Just Black blend. Pretty good, pretty good. Thanks for liking. Anybody who's jumped in here right now? Cool. I think Kay might have popped in. Thanks, Kay, for the like. Chilling this morning. It looks like a sunny day outside. It's very windy here in south central Pennsylvania. Very windy today. Bright sunshine gives me optimism. Taking it kind of easy this morning. Listened to the new Fish album last night. Sigma Oasis. Really cool. Cool name. So I got a path going up into the background. Again, I'm channeling some of the inspiration that I've been getting from video games and television that I've been watching lately, or movies. So whatever's freshest in your mind, it's okay to lean on that just a little bit. Ooh, looks like there's an accidental purple back here. I'm just going to go with it. Accidental purple just showed up. Sure, why not have a little purple hill here? That's going to be fun. I like that, turning some of these random brush marks into hills, into like distant, like smoky hill silhouette shapes. It's fun. Just gonna go with that. Gonna lean into it. I love that phrase, lean into that. Something that it's a phrase that's only been used for like 3 or 4 years here. I think they pioneered the usage out on the West Coast, and I finally traveled out to the East Coast where I am. Maybe because I was out in California and heard a few people say that recently. I think it's funny how in California people consider the main highway the 5. They put a pronoun. They put a connecting word in front of it. Here it's just I-95. That's the terrible highway. And it gets you places. Sure, you get to New York, no traffic in less than 4 hours. But if it's traffic's bad, it's misery. It's just absolute misery. Man. I avoided a 120 car pileup once when I was on I-95. Rain came down, and then there was bright sun, and the wind had picked up and blew the rain clouds away, but the water had pooled on the highway, so it started to smoke or fog up, and it was this complete whiteout as the setting sun from the west just blinded everybody driving through it. Weird conditions. I want to say it was April of 2003, 2004, or something like that, maybe 5. Just playing paintball with bunch of friends from college, and we were driving out. I want to say Havre de Grace. I think it was Robin Hood paintball up in like Havre de Grace, Maryland, kind of by Aberdeen Proving Ground. And man, we started driving real slow and could see the silhouette of cars just piled up, emerging from the fog, and it happened right in front of us. We didn't see the collisions, but we saw the immediate aftermath of like 20 or 30 cars all smashing into each other. Slowly, I don't think anyone was hurt, or at least not critically. I think maybe one person was medevac, but I don't think there was any deaths from that pileup because it was a real slow-moving crash. You know, people hit their brakes, but didn't expect to stop, so they're all kind of rolling into each other at 30 miles an hour. You see this guy crawling out of the side of an SUV. I think it was a Jeep Liberty looking thing, and onto man, what a scene it was. So we pulled off. I was in my Volkswagen Jetta 2004 at the time. Went right. It was 2002, so it must have been 2004, 2005 when it happened. Pull off into the grass, like through the long grass. I've been mowing a little bit, and we're like looking at this giant mass of stuff as we go on by. And we felt so fortunate to not have been in that accident. And then later we found out that within a couple minutes of us driving through, they closed both sides of the highway for like 12 hours to clear that mess. People were stuck. People were just stuck forever. I don't know if the state troopers were able to kind of rally some people and get them moving out of there, give them a little bit of direction, but man, we were grateful to be on and moving and eating pizza back at Micah instead of hanging out there. Boy, I was just sore afterwards. Paintball was fun, but I don't know that that juice is worth the squeeze. It's I always play a little too hard, so I get sore and beat up at the end of the day. So I feel like these 3 colors are conveying the front side top thing. I can always go over it and change the color a little bit later. So it's a mix of tone. So like, what's the brightness there? You look at that color, 60% bright. And that's the top. So the front side is actually a little bit brighter. Does this make sense? Let's try another one here. If I keep the top brightest, what happens if we say like this pillar here? Top is that color. Let me lighten it just a little bit more because it's closer to us. Let's keep that total. That's the sky. And then we have the shadow side. And then we have a warm but dimmer, even more saturated front side. How does that feel? I don't know, maybe this is a weird choice because we're coming right up against this blonde's hair. So we're going to darken the little girl with the blonde hair in the front there. Let's give her some cheeks. Maybe she's kind of hiding. She's a little shy, hiding in that bit of hair a little bit. It's fun. It's a little too yellow. I mean, blonde is really like a golden color. It's not just yellow, so we'd fix that somehow. So does this feel interesting? Is this a good color shade? A little darker there, top there. Just a little bit dimmer. Because we're going back further away, the contrast is going to recede down a little bit. Shadowed. Shadow. How does that feel? If you go a little bit lighter at the corner, a little bit lighter, brighter, saturated up there. Does that feel good? What do you think? What do we think? It's working. I mean, it's kind of communicating it. If I want a little bluer up top, a little bluer, a little lighter, does that feel good? And certainly a surface. Yeah, I mean that's not too bad. So this is like really early morning sun, maybe. It's still coming up. A little bit purple gray. Just trying it out. Does that feel more epic? So we're just doing, this would be that vertical slice I've talked about in other broadcasts, where we're just going to do a little part of the canvas to a higher rendered level where we can experiment. Sometimes if you're trying to solve an art problem, maybe it's best to solve it in a little laboratory kind of experiment, kind of a lab area that you can build for yourself within your canvas. And you can experiment and problem solve just on a small bit, a small piece. It's so important to make lots of little art, lots of little quick projects to help you solve problems for later, bigger projects. You have to have little, I think you need a little successes. Lots of little successes keep you going, whereas if you commit to a big project and it ends up not working, then that's a bigger failure. Maybe fail small. Fail small would be good. Come with me and you'll see the world of your imagination. Something like the song it goes. Gene Wilder singing to children. Got to meet him. Gene Wilder lived in my hometown. Nice guy. Used to see him playing tennis at the club. Oh, got me tennis lessons one year in Stamford, Connecticut. And we were looking over, and there's this wild-looking old man with a big, like, brownish, reddish colored fro, just big hair, white polo, white short shorts, white socks, white sneakers, just bouncing in the tennis court next to me. Gene Wilder playing tennis. It's Willy Wonka. Poor guy, he got that so much. See him at the little market. I'm trying to remember the name of it. There was a steakhouse on Long Ridge Road, and there was a market. It was Genevieve's? Giovanni's? Giovanni's, something like that. Little market, North Stamford. See him in there. Sister worked the cash register for a little while, and would see him coming in, bag up his groceries. Willy Wonka. That's good. Have a good day. He didn't have a deep voice. I don't know why I gave him a super deep voice. So less detail is going to be exposed in the background. So we're just going to generalize things a little bit, shrink them down just a little bit. Perspective. Still keep the top. So dim, knock that lit side just a little bit. Thinking about our shadow lines. A little darker there. Alright, so that's starting to feel nice and solid. So we can add our details into that later. So as we go around, this is starting to feel a little bit more believable. Having the top clearly defined, having the shadow side defined in big shapes. Looks like I built some, or I drew some construction thing. Maybe there's a little crew working on a scaffold here that's working on this bit of platform. So it's a little narrative, a little storytelling going on. Why not? You know, this is a peacetime part of the world here, and there's a wagon. There's a kind of wagon and horse thing. You know, come in down there maybe. Be fun. Oh, we'll get more into that later. So the front gate probably be a bit bigger. Let's go back to that purple. It's always fun whenever you're struggling with your colors on a painting. Just get some warmer color and some cooler color. Left, right, wax on, wax off, and then you suddenly have some color contrast, some color vibrability. My friend Josh is telling me about pan-fried polenta right now. Making me hungry, dog. Making me hungry. Live streaming at the moment, salivating a little. Another sip of coffee. So, probably about now, my friend Dustin and Devin are releasing a new video, Art of Craftsmanship, on YouTube of the landscape back and forth that we did, where I did a landscape digital painting of a photograph he had taken. He did an oil painting of that digital thing, and we ended up with a very funny combination of pieces, and Devin's been telling me it's really funny to check out this video, and I'm pretty thrilled to be a part of it. Haven't seen it yet, but the preview of that is going to be pretty funny. So just a little preview of what's going on. We have the traditional on the left, which is a beautiful oil painting, and on the right we have a tank in a field, because that's what I ended up drawing. There was no tank in the scene. I just took a reference photo and just drew that tank and tried to get the lighting to kind of match and the colors to kind of match the rest of the landmark scene. It was a good time. I was glad to be a part of it. He opened the door for me to send him a challenge to do something that I would typically draw. We'll see if that happens. Maybe. God, meeting day till 4 or so. Let's get back to drawing. Let's get back to drawing. Doing live drawing right now. Got friends sending me pictures of their cats. It's fun. So inside, we got the corner seems to be working. How can we resolve this little area of the village right here? So we have our warm side, cooler roof, shadowy side, shadowy side. Got some shade, shaded. So this side of the wall is going to be kind of illuminated by sunlight. Maybe just a little hint of it is. It's cool. So a couple bricks getting hit by it. Cool. Just establish the massing. This is good. This is coming in. Want to give a shout out to really talented painter who I've had the fortune of working on the same projects with. Haven't worked directly with. But that would be Samurai Cop. Samurai Cop is awesome. Samurai Cop has a real name, of course, and that is going to be this wonderful guy. SamuraiCop.blogspot.com. Outstanding artist who worked on Civ 5, did a lot of the paintings, a lot of the brainstorming work for the environment. Beautiful paintings. Beautiful paintings. Oh, cool, huh? Just great, great work. I'm not saying his name because I think he might have been uncredited because he was also working for someone else at the time. I'm not really sure what the contract deal was. But the paintings are at samuraicop.blogspot.com. Nice mechanical transport stuff. Portraiture. Just love it. Big environment things. It's done a lot of work for a lot of different people. Great paintings. And a lot of establishing color studies for games I've been a part of. Big time. For instance, I think he did the landscape key colors for Off-World Trading Company. Let me see if there's the concept art thing. Oh, that's interesting. Concept art. Yes, I believe this is one of his paintings. So I've been in collaboration with two artists. So I believe, ooh, I might be wrong about this. So I thought this was a Samurai Cop landscape, but it might be a Bryce Homick landscape. Bryce Homick is also a very talented artist who I've worked with both at Firaxis and Oxide. There's Bryce's work. Bryce did some great work. Bryce Homick, talented painter. Did a lot of the spaceship design that we had on Ashes of the Singularity, on these big floating tanks. I got to model this guy. I modeled the Hercules, or they're calling it Hyperion now. Yeah, we called it Hercules for a long time. Bryce Homick, ladies and gentlemen, outstanding, outstanding artist. Artstation.com/Zombat. This was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun to do. Look at these beautiful landscapes. He did some work for XCOM. How dope is that hallway? I could go visit that hallway. Feels very much like the Avengers. It's pretty cool. Good job, Bryce. Very talented dude. I had the pleasure of working with him on a couple projects. Wish we got to do more, buddy. If you ever watch this video, hope we get to work together again in the future at some point. Samurai Cop and Bryce Homick. Off-World was a fun game. Ooh, my man also did this landscape. Samurai Cop did this landscape for another project I worked on recently. And it's not loading, but that's what the art looks like. So nice landscape with a little village. So I'm trying to do my own version of this style type thing, but a little bit more zoomed in for a book cover, but you get the idea, hopefully. Boom. Explaining what my process is all about. Samurai Cop, throwing you some love because you know who you are. You know, I'm sure whoever's watching this will look it up and figure out who he is. I just don't want to drop the name in case he wants that to be on the down low. If he wants to keep that on the down low. What's up, Orion? How you doing, man? Orion knows Bryce. Orion did some work on that game, I believe. Orion worked on the XCOM. The XCOM. Enemy Unknown. It's kind of like, is that Benny Benassi song, Destination Unknown? I don't think it's Benny Benassi. I think it's someone else, but I do like it. So how do we solve some of these building messes in the middle here? Well, you have to have some kind of line plan for what we want to do. You have such a flat shape in the foreground. What if we just tilted this house just a little bit? Maybe there's a street that's kind of coming like this zigzag kind of direction. So there's going to be a house that we see a little bit of the facade of here, facade here. Let's go shadow, facade. So I'm trying to work some of this cool Mediterranean style roofing, but that warm color and the cool sunlight are a little bit competing. So I'm going to try to overlay this cooler roofer color with the red tile, red roofing tile. It's not really doing very much. It's not giving me what we want. Let's try hue just a little bit. That's too much. Pick that. You go 10%, 20%. Making it kind of yellow. Not really crazy about it. We might just have to mix and match and arrive at a color the old-fashioned way. It's a good time to save this off as a new file. Save as number 3, Valley of Plenty 3. I like to save a bunch of different versions because I come from an era of computer users that stuff would crash. You know, files would get corrupted, files would crash, software would crash, market crashes. Well, we all come from that area now, huh? So cool thing there. The street is looking up, so that's going to be cool, but darker. So the street's coming down here. Street's here. There's a main thoroughfare through the city. That's that. And we have the warm shadow color of the facing and the cool shade color. So inside the vertical walls are either going to be this warm or this cool, just at first, until we can get our wits about us. So you can do this with shade too. You could do this with just grayscale, thinking about where's your 20% dark, where's your 40% dark. But color makes it just a little clearer. If you can go cool, warm, I think that could be pretty good. Maybe these buildings are connected. So let's do a little dark and desaturated. Roof there. Be a little cool bands. That would be nice. That kind of works. So the dark and the light. Just a little red on the top, maybe. It's not bad. It seems to communicate the idea, doesn't it? Pretty good. That feel good? It's just a little warmer. We have a window. Does that make sense? How about some like tapestry? Does that make? This is some kind of market alley down here. Does it make sense? Yeah, I ask I ask that question myself constantly. Is what I'm drawing, does that make sense? Is it fun? Does it add something to the composition? Does it make it dumb? So I don't know what this building is right now, so I'm just going to do the 3 color system. So getting a visual vocabulary for ourselves. Desaturate a little bit lighter. Probably some kind of smokestack, right? Some kind of chimney. A little darker than that. It's a little bit lighter on top. We're catching a little bit of light inside of this city. This town is waking up. The process of seeing a new dawn. So that side of the house is going to get a little bit more light and shade. Cool. So real purple in the shadows, pretty dark. Purple against all this orange feels pretty nice. That'll be our primary shadow color. Alright, so we start to see that we have some cohesion with the color and volume and massing. So same thing goes on the inside. If you want to inset a little area for the dudes to walk around, use the same color scheme, just kind of opposite. That area, shadow area, slightly dimmer platform where people would probably be. If it was going to be some kind of flagpole, I would pin I think it'd be easiest to pin the flagpole against one of the big blocks along the side. Just have a couple figures, a couple sentries, just kind of hanging out up top there. I feel like sentry would be visible at this distance. Like one little person would be a blob. Then we got some kind of flag. What color team should they be? Maybe royal purple? This is a royal village, maybe. It's kind of fun. Too saturated, maybe. Just give it a little bit of warm light. It's kind of cool, kind of fun. So just wanted to do a quick update, show you what I'm working on today. What am I thinking about? I'm thinking about cooling down the sides of these maybe grapevines that are here. Maybe it's a whole patch of wine grapes. That's good. People like wine in the Mediterranean areas. So I'm thinking a little bit of that road in Napa Valley I was on. Had some trees. Cypress, is that what they're called? Cypress trees? Yeah, they're cool. There's a line of trees going off into the woods over here. It'll be fun. A couple details that the viewer can hang their eyes on. This could be a trail that's leading people to the town from the hills. Stuff like that. It'll be fun. We got paths coming out. We got fields of grain, fields of wheat. I see skies blue, clouds of white, bright sunny day, dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Nothing's going to top that. So I'm going to keep working on this today. Just wanted to share with you what I'm up to. Hope you all have a really good day. Chill out, have some coffee, and be productive. Yeah, I think that's good. Take care.